Hello, Fantastic Beasts fans. We know that Dumbledore and Grindelwald were intensely close as teens. They shared a goal they were both passionate about until tragedy struck. But could they have been so committed to their quest for the Deathly Hallows that they made an unbreakable vow? I'm Susan Chapal with Fantastic Secrets Behind Fantastic Beasts to bring you the clues. Join me and other Fantastic Beasts fans here on the Beast Chaser Forum as we uncover the secrets, discover what's coming first, and play along with Rowling's newest game. And make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification so you'll be notified when videos post and won't miss out on the next clues. We've been talking a lot lately about the amphitheater scene and the possibility that Grindelwald is seeking to rip open the veil of death. But today, I want to ask a couple of new questions. Is it possible that Dumbledore has inside knowledge of Grindelwald's ultimate plan based on a vow they made together as teens? And did they, as teens, already try to break through this portal together? Marie Fauquembergue at Honeydeer joins me for this theory. Marie is a huge Fantastic Beasts fan, Gryffindor shipper, and works at the premier French fan site, Universe Harry Potter. So welcome, Marie. And as always now, beware the risk of spoilers ahead. During the one summer they spent together in Godric's Hollow, Grindelwald and Dumbledore were bound by a similarity of intellect, interest, and talent. Perhaps Grindelwald was even influenced in his attitude about Muggles from seeing the effects the Muggles' attack on Ariana and the imprisonment of Dumbledore's father had on his new friend Albus. As Marie points out, it's very possible that the young, talented wizard shared magical secrets from their particular schools, which means Dumbledore could have learned some of Durmstrang's dark arts. At King's Cross and Deathly Hallows, Dumbledore told Harry that while pursuing the three Hallows inflamed him and Grindelwald both, neither he nor Grindy needed invisibility cloaks to make themselves invisible, which indicates they'd done a bit of invisible marauding themselves, which is perhaps why, years later, Dumbledore was so tolerant of the marauders who came under his care as headmaster. Could Dumbledore and Grindelwald have performed potentially dangerous and experimental magic in Godric's Hollow and no one knew about it? As shown in the letter Albus wrote to Grindelwald, Albus was aware of what Grindelwald got expelled for. Could Grindy have pushed Dumbledore to go too far in his own magical experiments? And could all of this be the reason why Dumbledore is equipped to be the dark arts teacher at Hogwarts, as is confirmed in Crimes of Grindelwald? Marie also picked out some very intriguing details in the calendar image of Grindelwald. Look, here, here, and here. What are they? Marie thinks they are planchettes from Ouija boards. You know, the things that are moved about the board to highlight different letters to spell out words to form messages from spirits. She wonders if the three planchettes could be a symbol of the three Deathly Hallows, or the three deaths in Dumbledore's family, Albus's mother, father, and Ariana. I'm not sure that we'd see a game of Ouija played on screen, but we could definitely see hints of a magically based one played on a grand scale. In other words, the opening of the portal between the world of the living and the supernatural that we've been talking about in several videos. The skull seems to be clear evidence that Grindelwald is seeking to communicate with the dead. Of the three Hallows, Grindelwald already has the Elder Wand, but the Resurrection Stone, that one excited both him and Dumbledore for different reasons. Dumbledore to resurrect his parents and take responsibility off his shoulders so he could pursue his dreams of becoming a great and famous wizard. Grindelwald to have an Inferi army. And could Albus have known how to deal with Inferi in the Horcrux cave in Deathly Hallows because Grindelwald achieved this aim, which we will surely see at some point? So what if, out of their shared passion, these young men made a pledge together, one that secured and protected their shared quest for the Hallows? But is there any evidence for such an oath? Most of the evidence I'm looking at, besides the logic of their known history together, comes from images on the newly released Crimes of Grindelwald calendar. Here's what Marie and I have found. That circle on the front poster of the calendar binds Grindelwald together. As discussed in my last video, this is very likely a sigil, such as the Sigillum de Aemeth, or Seal of God's Truth, used to call forth spirits to do the will of the wizard invoking them. As Grindelwald will not be able to attain the resurrection stone, he'll have to find another method. The sigil could do this. So we think Grindelwald and Dumbledore are together in this circle because either they invoked a spirit together as youth, or they are bound and pledged to invoke one in the future. Now notice these ribbons or threads on the calendar. Could they symbolize the unbreakable vow? The vow is described as a thin tongue of brilliant flame. I thought at first this thin ribbon on Grindelwald's image was the pipe from the skull, but you see the same thing on Tina's. It's a ribbon of spell, similar to what comes from an unbreakable vow. Also, as I mentioned in the last video, Jude Law said in an interview at Comic-Con that Dumbledore is aware of an oath that Grindelwald made. Could this oath be the unbreakable vow? Then there's the bracelet Dumbledore wears in that Mirror of Erised scene, which we discussed in a prior video. We were given a big hint of its purpose at Comic-Con. Everyone in the audience wore a bracelet that lit up with the Deathly Hallows symbol when Johnny Depp waved his wand. Marie notes that Grindelwald most likely gave that bracelet to Dumbledore. After all, Grindelwald had already carved the symbol into Durmstrang before being expelled. And could Dumbledore have reciprocated with the Hallows pendant, which Graves gave to Credence? Either these Hallow ornaments were a cool way for Dumbledore and Grindelwald to communicate, or they were physical reminders of a bond, a vow they shared. There's also the slight hint of a Deathly Hallows tattoo, which appears under Dumbledore's rolled-up sleeve. Could the magic of Dumbledore and Grindelwald's vows have left an imprint, a tattoo, of the Hallows on their skin? So let's assume for a moment that Dumbledore and Grindelwald did make an unbreakable vow. Who was their bonder? We saw with the vow between Snape and Narcissa that Bellatrix acted as the bonder. Who would have done so for Dumbledore and Grindelwald? The only two possibilities I can think of are Ariana or Aberforth. Aberforth seems unlikely with his antagonism toward his brother, but maybe that explains his attitude. Maybe he knew too much of what his brother had pledged to do with Grindelwald, and it lowered his respect. Or maybe Ariana did it. Did she have enough magical power and control to act in such a way? And if so, might this be the reason for her death? If Grindelwald was the one who cast the deadly spell, could he have done so deliberately to silence her? And what exactly would their vow have been? I can imagine several possibilities, starting with to always protect each other's life, which could explain why Dumbledore cannot go after Grindelwald, or, as Dalton Perkinson suggests, as they plan to set off on a quest after the Deathly Hallows, and knowing that only one could become the Elder Wand's true owner, they vowed that the loser would not kill the other to win the wand's allegiance, which sounds highly probable and would make their final duel very interesting if neither could truly kill the other. But what if they went further than that? After all, an unbreakable vow can hold more than one promise, as Snape's and Bellatrix's held 3. Perhaps they also planned details on acquiring and using the Resurrection Stone. Could they have vowed to open the portal no matter what? What if, even without the Resurrection Stone, these brilliant boys discovered a method to commune with the dead? And they tested it out. Marie wonders if they tried to bring Albus's mother back to life, to lift the childcare burden from Albus, but failed. But what if Gellert wanted a grander spirit? What about one of the makers of the Deathly Hallows itself? After all, as Marie points out, one of them lay conveniently buried in the graveyard down the road. What if he sought to summon the spirit of Ignotus Peverell? The answers the maker of the invisibility cloak could have given them, the insight into death itself, could have helped them understand the Hallows better to find and reunite them all, or create their own as a failsafe. As Rowling has stated that those who are truly dead cannot be truly brought back to life, I imagine the magic to invoke a spirit would be extraordinarily complicated. probably well past the skills and talents of even these extremely intelligent young men. Perhaps the portal is guarded by such powerful magic that it can only be opened on a particular day in a particular location with certain other magical elements present. You know, everything has to be in particular alignment, particularly. The images on the calendar that we talked about in the last video seem to center not only around summoning spirits, but also determining particular astrological dates. I'm wondering if it's possible that Grindelwald is trying to ascertain the particular date that is necessary to open the portal. And if Dumbledore knows enough about this plan because of their vow that he's been working hard to determine the date as well, it would give a reason for all those astrological implements in his office. In good storytelling, a writer never wants important plot elements to happen by coincidence. And as J.K. Rowling is definitely a good storyteller, it will not be mere coincidence that everyone ends up in Paris at the same time. Yes, I know they're all tracking Credence, but what if there are other reasons as well? Is it possible that Dumbledore informs Newt where Grindelwald is hiding before the wizarding world is aware of it? That Dumbledore knows because he's been using all his astrological gadgets to track the same thing Grindelwald is tracking. Could this be the reason for all the time hints that we've been given? They're not going back in time, but tracking time for the ideal astrological time period to open that portal. Because for that perfect alignment on a certain date, Paris is where it's at. Perhaps even the amphitheater under the cemetery. But because of their vow, Dumbledore cannot stop Grindelwald. That's why it has to be Newt. It's even possible that Dumbledore knows enough about this date to tell Newt exactly where Grindelwald will be at the mentioned time in order to try and stop him. And if something goes wrong, as I've theorized it would, is Newt going to blame Dumbledore for having sent him there? Notice one more thing. Does this bright light at the apex of the symbol on the calendar look like the burst of light filling the amphitheater at the point where all the elements combine? And is it a sign that the portal has been opened? If so, how would that affect the unbreakable vow between Dumbledore and Grindelwald? I want to thank Marie so much for her valued assistance with this theory. With her love of history and fascination with the characters, she's got a great mind for spotting clues. She also shares news and images and fan art with other Fantastic Beasts fans. Please be sure to check her out on Twitter at HannyDear, especially if you love Grindelwald. So what do you think? Could Dumbledore and Grindelwald have made an unbreakable vow as teens? And if so, what exactly would it be? Do you think they may have been the original Marauders? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Also, please check out my new fan shop on Amazon for books and Funko Pops and wands and all things Fantastic Beasts. Until next time.